Everyone, welcome back to Touch the Fire Twice. I'm Joshua, and I'm here today to do an in-depth sniff post-burn candle review on two Bath & Body Works candles from a recent drop, the Juniper and Gin, as well as the Sweet Whiskey 3-wick candles. But first, if you are new to Touch the Fire Twice, welcome. My mission here is to share my love and passion for home fragrance as an enthusiast, an educator, a reviewer, to inspire you to increase your own fragrance knowledge and understanding, ultimately enhancing the scent memories that you create. If you want to learn more about what I do, why I do it, how I do it, you can check out my website at TouchTheFireTwice.com. But today I want to dive right into these. So this is a small collection of 4 candles, at least right now, that were released in stores just last week of September. As you can see here, there are 2 additional fragrances that I did not purchase, that being Spiced Apple Toddy, which is a repackage coming back all the time and really just smells like a weaker version of Leaves to me, so I've actually, I don't think, ever purchased it. And then a new scent, Cranberry Orange Seltzer, which I sniffed and it smelled okay. Didn't get a ton of effervescence. I've often like effervescent candles when it comes to bubbly or kind of sodas or cranberry pear Bellini. I really enjoy that. And summertime soda back years ago, I enjoyed that. But the bubbly rosé, champagne toast, that black cherry seltzer, those are all ones that are in the miss camp for me. So I'd say the cranberry orange seltzer, TBD, some people will probably love it. I think that orange scents, for some reason, are difficult to execute really well as a primary fragrance in the candle, at least with Bath & Body Works. I like cran orange. Cranberry is, of course, really perfect winter fruit to put into fragrances, but when it comes to cranberry orange seltzer or cranberry pear Bellini, all the way. That Slack & Co. Air cranberry pear Bellini, I've always been a big fan of that and continue to be a fan of that scent. So I didn't buy that one, but I did purchase these 2. And let's talk just a little bit about the art direction of the labels. So this is kind of, a beverage collection. Seems almost more like a New Year's kind of celebration cheers collection, though it's coming out in late, as sort of a late fall release. But these translucent labels of the different colors, so the purple, the green, the red, and the orange, are meant to look like a faceted crystal, really cocktail glass. Could be a goblet, could be a cocktail glass, but you look at some Riedel cocktail glasses or wine glasses, crystalware, and you'll see this exact pattern in there. So it's nice. It looks good burning. It's somewhat simple, decorative. It works for me. And of course, just a really simple label at the bottom here. Again, Sweet Whiskey and your Juniper and Gin. I considered doing separate videos for these and going really in depth and talking about gin and, taste testing the gin next to it and taste testing some whiskey. But end of day, I figured that it makes sense to do these 2 together because they are both, I'm not going to say that they are beverage or drink candles. They're more so inspired by those cocktails because they are both quite conceptual versus literal interpretations. And there's a huge difference when it comes to that. So you think of candles that are either conceptual interpretations inspired by or a literal interpretation dupe of what, this real world item, scent, food, botanical, plant, whatever may be. And for me, these are both more so inspired by. So it doesn't really require a direct comparison to gin or whiskey because it's very clear that neither of these smell like a straightforward whiskey or gin, but they are inspired by that, and therefore the name kind of can work. So it's more the concept, the vibe, the feeling that they're meant to evoke is what I get from these. Let's dig in first to the most well-known fragrance from the collection, which is Sweet Whiskey. And this is a straight port of their body care item at Bath & Body Works. I actually did purchase, I don't purchase a ton of their kind of signature or straightforward body care, but I did purchase the Sweet Whiskey last year. I really enjoyed that scent as kind of a late fall fragrance. Certainly in that perfumey interpretation. Again, it's not meant to smell exactly like whiskey. When it comes to some of the men's collection, which gendering fragrance could be its own video, I've ranted before on that. Stupid, I don't like it. It doesn't make sense. It's not necessary, and it really limits people who are not willing to step outside of a comfort zone and tells them what lane they should be in. And there are no lanes when it comes to what you like to smell, to shower, that doesn't really even stick on you that long, or even wear as like identity out in the world, whatever. But the whiskey sometimes that you'll get in that men's collection will be a little bit more whiskey focused, where it's going to smell, again, not so much like the fermented grains that are what make up whiskey, but the aging barrels that they're in and the vanilla and spiced and woody notes that the aging barrels impart, and the charred scent sometimes that are imparted to the alcohol itself to give it that depth of flavor, the aging. You'll get something a little bit more like that sometimes with men's collection. With this sweet whiskey, the notes on this, well, they share the same notes, which are golden amber, vanilla infused whiskey, and sweet red berries. You can see there are more so, again, an interpretation of whiskey, but there's no whiskey that you would sniff and would sniff just like this, which is fine. Digging into it, it is sweet, it is creamy. I really enjoy it. I do wish it had more of a woody aspect to it. I mean, any whiskey, any bourbon is going to have a healthy hit of those wood notes because they're aged in typically French or American oak barrels, and it's going to release kitchen spice flavors from the oak into the spirit. It's going to release your spices, your vanillas, your caramels, really a full range of notes are going to come out based on how old the wood is, how long it is aged in there for, the grain that they use for the spirit. Is it, a corn-based bourbon? Is it a wheat whiskey? Is it rye? The whole wide world of spirits, exists there, but this doesn't really have any of the woody side of things, which I wouldn't mind in here to make it a little bit more mature and have a greater depth. At the same time, amber is typically going to be sort of an accord based on vanilla, sometimes benzoin, which is a resin that is very much like vanilla. So you're going to get sort of that deep, sort of tonka-like, seductive, sweet, warm, earthy richness. Sometimes an amber accord will have a note of labdanum. Labdanum is a sticky brown resin from the cistus shrub in the Mediterranean. And that's going to be amber animalic, sweet, musky, fruity, sometimes almost leathery. So you can see when they say amber, all the parts that come into that, at least all of the descriptors, whether it is from labdanum or traditional vanilla, can make up amber. Golden amber especially is going to have some of that sheen of musk to it, but rich, warm, resinous, but a strong sweetness to it as well. Not a sugary sweet, but still that animalic sweetness almost. And then vanilla infused whiskey. Vanilla is one of those notes that comes through the whiskey barrels. That's where you're going to have that interplay with the spirit, wheat or rye or corn. So certainly a vanilla edge to this, a little bit of sharpness. And when it comes to these sweet red berries, yes, berry, but don't think fruity. Don't think your raspberry, strawberry, blueberry. Oftentimes it's going to be more like a currant. So like a red berry, red fruit is going to give you a bit of that perception of a velvety, almost seductive, a little bit more brightness that is going to help balance a woody amber blend. Can really dance nicely with sort of your, think cherry mixed with tobacco or red currant berries mixed with amber. That same sort of balance of a bit sweet, a bit seductive, sophisticated, not juicy, fresh, fruity. And that's really what you get in sweet whiskey. I enjoy it. It is very much a conceptual sort of perfume, more body care fragrance, though a good fragrance can be body care, can be diffused, can be thrown in wax and burned. It doesn't really matter. There's nothing that says this needs to be only in a home fragrance, this needs to be only in a body or personal fragrance. And I really like this. It is something that could almost be year-round, of course, due to the depth, the warmth of the vanilla with that golden amber and that kind of musky, sweet seductiveness. It does lean a bit towards your colder weather because there's a warmth, borderline powderiness, but not quite to it, with that sweet earthiness, and it is quite sweet in that vanilla benzoin sort of way, but it's very nice. Sweet whiskey is not the name I would choose for it, but I understand marketing-wise what they're going for, but this could have many other names, mostly conceptual, and it would work, and it's just very nice, but certainly not really a beverage as far as this looking like a crystal cocktail glass, not so much on that side. But I really, really enjoy it. And it burned, obviously, quite well. Need to trim these wicks, but healthy burn, strong throw, projection. And again, if you like one, Sometimes they release, say Sweater Weather does not match the candle and their body fragrance at Bath & Body Works. These two are one and the same. Then we move over to the one that I was perhaps the most excited about, Juniper and Gin. First of all, when it comes to gin is a neutral spirit that has typically either a London dry gin will have a heavy base of juniper berries from a juniper bush, but there are also botanical gins that have no juniper and have nearly anything you can imagine in there, because it is a true neutral spirit, and it might have rose petals or cucumber skin, lavender, chamomile, citrus peel, black pepper, pink peppercorns. Any sort of herb or spice nearly can be added to it. Tea leaves. There is an entire wide world of gin, which if you're interested in it, I would highly recommend checking it out, because if you don't think you like gin, it might have been you tried straightforward, strong London dry gin and you're like, oh, this tastes like a pine tree, I don't like gin. You just don't like London dry gin. There are so many other gins out there. That said, so when they say juniper and gin, it is assumed typically if you're going to have gin as a home fragrance or in some sort of fragrance that it's going to be the traditional juniper based. So it's just kind of repetitive because juniper is one of the main flavorings in most gins. That said, notes on this say juniper berries, chilled gin, and freshly squeezed lime. Now I will say, as I like to do, I always talk about comparisons. I have some juniper berries here because why wouldn't I? From Penzeys Spices. Love Penzeys Spices, really, really great quality stuff. They actually describe juniper berries, popular as a seasoning for venison, squab, pheasant, and rabbit. A few juniper berries reduce the wild flavor of these meats and add a pleasant tartness, often used in Germanic dishes such as sauerbraten, stuffed goose, and beef stews. Who knew? If you're not familiar with what they look like, they really just look like tiny little currants or tiny little dried blueberries, as you can see there. And they are infused in the gin, and because they are, again, juniper, it is going to be from that evergreen family. It is going to impart that strong kind of camphorous, not a sweet berry at all. Now sniffing these, if I crack it open, that is where you can actually, when I tore it open, there was just a little bit of almost like a sap or a stickiness in the middle there. And boy, that smells like gin. That is the juniper that you love in Sweater Weather when it's mixed with some balsam and eucalyptus. It's got this astringency sort of pine edge to it, while at the same time being uniquely juniper berries. So juniper, it's gonna give you that bracing, kind of exhilarating, I call it oftentimes the fresh balsam whoosh, is almost more from a juniper than just a balsam. A little bit of a pine to it, kind of sappy, resinous, very fresh, very powerful. Again, used in small doses because that is strong. That one berry is strong smelling and enough to counteract the gaminess of wild meats. Who knew? Well, I guess for hundreds of years, people knew and were using it for that. But juniper and gin, I can't say I get a strong, authentic juniper in this. Certainly not when I compare it to a literal juniper berry, because there's very little pineness. There is a little bit of that kind of exhilarating, bracing freshness, but almost none of the sharpness. A little bit of sappiness and freshness, but for me, this candle, it's a bit of a mystery for a couple of reasons. First, I'll just say, it smells like something and I can't place it. I don't think it's a direct repackage of something, but it's in the family of some sense, but where it's weird, though not unexpected with Bath & Body Works, is it feels out of season for me. This smells more like a citrusy, watery juniper or balsam or woody salted air ozone marine blend from, say, like springtime collection. So, think of your sea salt and balsam or other blends like that that are a little bit of that kind of fresh woody pine mixed with a sweetness from a citrus and marine notes almost. To me, I wouldn't call it lime. I want to say it's a lemon, but it could be something even a little bit more like a floral lemon, like a earthy or almost like a yuzu or something. Or even, dare I say, I don't know, a lot of people will be turned off by me saying it, but bergamot, like kind of a sparkling citrus. I get a sparkling, bright citrus. I'm gonna say, sure, I suppose it's juniper berries. A certain sweetness, but I'm not sure where that comes from. but a base of almost like, I want to say moss, some sort of like oak moss, not in a forest floor, but in a marine, ozonic, coastal scent. I think this very much is in an herbal, coastal marine fragrance. Think Pacific Northwest, that sweet citrus mix of botanicals, which gin can have citrus notes as well, so it's not off on that sense. That brightness, that freshness, that a bit of sweetness, balanced with something more earthy. Feels kind of aquatic or cool forest coast line. And it's interesting, it's intriguing. I wouldn't call it, again, to me it's not at all a beverage, but at the same time I find it enjoyable. There's a weight to it. So it's not just a springy candle, but to me it feels like it could be almost like an aromatherapy year-round scent, or maybe if it had to, it would lean toward a spring fragrance, like a cool ocean afternoon. Again, not all marine watery notes are in the tropics. It can be, Vancouver Island in Canada where it's going to be cooler, rockier. I don't know. I like it. It doesn't smell like gin. It doesn't give me juniper the way that holiday blends typically express juniper, but it's worth getting your nose on. So nicely done. Not exactly juniper. Same thing with this. Nicely done. Not exactly whiskey, but I'm happy they're trying new things. I like these. I will continue to burn them. May even get more than one of them. Though they're being marketed more fun, festive drinks, they really do lean more towards your conceptual, more well thought out fragrance blends that are evoking a mood or a space, a place, a feeling. And I really like that. That gets into some of the more luxury brands, oftentimes what they're doing. And I love when Bath & Body Works plays with that and leans in that direction and pulls us from just, the pumpkin pecan waffles, which, don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place, but into something a little bit more elevated or conceptual or different, something to just challenge our preconceived notions of what we think we like. And I think these, for some folks, will do that. So let me know what you think. They are both very nice blends, good fragrances that I'm happy to be burning. So let me know your thoughts on that or anything else from that collection. If you've sniffed these, what your thoughts are, I'd love to hear that. If you have any questions, let me know. And until next time, take care.